Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. I am Sean Anderson, Most Valuable Podcast, and the upcoming segment is from our full Fast Break podcast that we recorded. And if you do want to check out that full podcast, head over to Blog Talk Radio /The Fast Break. You'll be able to find the full podcast over there. Now let's move on to Harry Giles, and a guy that, the question that we're posing out there is, will Harry Giles be a bust in the NBA? And that's not really on his skill set, and it's not really on his performance so far. But it's
so disrespectful to Harry. You're going to be a bust.
But it's asking a question because
I know
two ACL surgeries in high school, and he's finally coming back for Duke. Put up a double against Georgia Tech, and he didn't really show his athleticism. He's wearing that brace and not really trusting that knee as most players do when they come back from surgeries like that. I mean, he was getting up there, throwing down dunks, but really, I mean, does all of this, taking in, Coach K possibly being out for most of the season for Duke, taking in his injuries, taking in the fact that he has an immature teammate in Grayson Allen, will he have enough leadership to, A, get to the NBA in the top position he can? And will he be able to take in all of these injuries? Or will we see really a bust because of his injuries? I mean, really, Dave, look into the crystal ball. Will Harry Giles be a bust?
I want to say no, but Jesus Christ, his knees just... I don't know how well that's going to play out over an NBA career. I mean, I think he's got all the potential in the world, but I don't know if you're going to have him for more than like 5 good years maybe. He could go along the same line as Brandon Roy, where, yes, he looks great, but the timeline
was an
already.
All-star, yeah.
You know the end of the line. And you said it, he wasn't trusting his own knee already, and he still put up a double-double. That shows you he has the talent. I would use a top 10 pick on him because I think he's a high-impact player early on in the NBA. We were talking about guys, it takes a long time to develop. I don't think he's going to take a long time to develop. I think he will be an impact player day one, and I think you're going to have some good usage out of him in his early couple of years. I do have the long-term concerns for his health, but you know what? That's only going to play out over time, and we'll have to see how that goes. He could take great care of himself and really get his knees in good shape again. It's just, you can't predict injuries.
Well, and the thing that I think about with this is how Sean mentioned, he brought up Grayson Allen, and it has nothing to do with Grayson Allen's leadership or him being back on the court, which shouldn't even be an issue that we talk about. But the thing that I was kind of hoping for is, I'm like, great, Grayson Allen's going to be out a few games. This could allow Kennard to step up to be that main guy, and then kind of give an opportunity for Giles to have a greater role. When you take a player away, somebody needs to step up. And this, it could have created more time for Giles, even if it was just Georgia Tech and Boston College. Could have gave him 2 games where he could have had a more significant role and could have shown something.
And one thing, too, with Giles, I mean, just looking at his player profile, I mean, one thing that is good because, obviously he does show his ACLs, might not hold up. And the thing about his game, though, is he doesn't really need to be a guy that moves around a lot. He doesn't need to be a guy that, kind of needs to stretch the floor. He can be a guy that can play specifically down low.
Was it Kenneth Faried has no ACLs or something like that, right?
Possibly. I mean, just looking at it, though, I mean, he doesn't need to move around. He's not a guy that's going to stretch the floor. He's going to be a guy that's going to hover around that basket, and he showed that in Georgia Tech that he can do that efficiently. I mean, I believe it was Tatum or it was possibly Grayson Allen or Kennard, one of them, tossed him an oop, and he goes up, and it just kind of looks like he flailed on it, and he just throws up a limp layup, and it was his first basket of the game. But then in that Georgia Tech later on, Jason Tatum throws an alley-oop, and he's able to go up and slam it down. So really, I think it's going to be interesting more on how he will develop and grow throughout the season before we can really say he's a bust. But I think looking at this and looking at his Georgia Tech game and seeing how he's coming back, I think that the bust label and my worries about his knees are kind of going away a little bit. And if he's able to do this consistently, then they will probably most likely go away fully because, yes, you're going to have a guy that possibly might not be able to really stay healthy down the line. But if you put him on a minutes restriction in the NBA and then you have him fresh for the playoffs, this might be a guy that can just explode off the bat. And that's one thing that I think Harry Giles, I don't think he will be a bust just because he does have so many tools. And I think he might be a guy that really could be a steal in the draft if he goes 7 to 10.
Yeah, and I was thinking of DeJuan Blair, actually. He's the man with no ACL.
Yeah, but DeJuan Blair played about a good 6 years in the NBA, I think. So and Brandon Roy did too, and Brandon Roy was an all-star. So looking at it, I don't
like the
think
minutes restriction because that's actually something that more teams are taking seriously now.
I feel like
Well, the process, yes, because their whole team is on like 20 minutes. But no, I think that's something that could definitely increase the longevity of NBA players' careers. And I think medicine has come a pretty long way in the last decade. So it's something over time we're going to see more and more players, be more health concerned and take better care of themselves. I mean, shit, look at the 80s. Guys are in there smoking cigars, drinking before games, during games, after games. Like, there was just no, we don't care. It's just we're going out there having fun. Nowadays, they have nutritionists. They've got
what they're putting.
Oh my god,
bodies.
it's crazy.
There's analytics now of
Yeah.
health.
There's analytics with everything. Man.
Exactly, but
Yeah.
analytics
It's
were
with
a thing
everything.
before
I think
1994.
I think it's better to take somebody. There's a better chance that he'll pan out in the NBA in today's NBA.
Well, and the one thing that I question with Harry Giles that doesn't have to do with his injury history is where he's coming into this season. And I mean, right now in the mock draft, he's got him to the Timberwolves right now?
Yeah, it's
does
7.
Chad Ford. And I mean, if I'm a top 10 pick, of course I'd come out. But the one thing that you got to think about is if we see a lot of games where it's like we don't see any, like on the stat line, we don't see anything that just pops out and it's just like, okay, that's some fairly good games. Is he going to fall a little bit because he's only played virtually half a season? He's coming in, he came in right
He's
when
missing non-conference.
the season 2, which is conference play started, and that's when he came in. I'm not counting the Tennessee and Elon game because he played a combined 10 minutes in those 2 games. But if he sees some like mediocre games, is it going to be something we get to the end of the year and we're having a discussion with Giles about, do you come out and say, I'm going to come out because I don't know how many years I have on my
he has to.
ACL?
He's ticking
He's
time
got
bomb.
it. Yeah.
Or will we say your draft stock fell and you might have to stay to boost it back up?
He's got to stay around because the fact
Even
that
he's got to come out.
Even if his draft, let's say his draft stock falls
Don't care.
outside the lottery.
got to come out.
Yep.
He's got to come out because
has no-
what if he gets injured? If he gets injured at Duke,
over.
then there's no paycheck and there's nothing at all. I mean, that's the thing with the guys like if it's a guy like Ivan Robb who can do that, and if he's like, oh, I want to boost my draft stock, obviously that's not working out for him. So far he's falling down from a lottery pick last year to outside of the lottery now. But with a guy like Ivan Robb, he didn't have that ACL worries. Harry Giles can fuck up his knee again. He's done, and he doesn't have an NBA career. He doesn't have an NBA paycheck. He never says I was an NBA player.
So
That's the
really,
thing.
I'm going to say this: if he falls out of the lottery, basically he has no choice. He has to.
If
come
he's,
out.
a
he's coming
second,
out.
if he's
No
a
matter what he's
second round
doing.
draft pick, he's got to come out. He's got to come out this year.
Yep.
This is the one thing where I'm saying the one and done actually
I don't
is worth
expect.
it.
Yeah, it's going to work out to his benefit, but I don't expect him. I expect him to play really well for the end of the season, and I don't think there's any question he'll be a top 10 pick. I think he'll be higher than 8 where he's listed right now. But you know what? Have to watch play out.
Teams might take a chance on him because of the injuries, and we'll see how he does really in tournament time and through this conference schedule. But that's going to wrap up this draftcast for the Fast Break Podcast. I want to thank Dave Oster for joining me and Ricky Widmer for joining me as always. We'll have multiple when the Chad Ford mock draft comes out. We might do a couple just without Chad Ford. We don't need no Chad Ford to do a draft podcast. But anyways, thank you, Dave. Thank you, Ricky. Thank you for watching at home, and if you're listening on Blog Talk Radio, thank you for downloading. Thank you for listening. We appreciate it so much. But for Dave, Ricky, I'm Sean. We'll see you next time. Thank you. Oh, shit. It's just one of our videos scared me a little bit. Don't forget to check out that one. And also don't forget to check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. But thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.